have started. I believe we have begun. Hello, everybody. Think Like a Monk, Jay Shetty. Yeah, I'm looking down at those weren't my notes. I was looking at the actual book. But everybody, we shared our notes. These were mine. Uh, Amy and Michelle, yeah. So we all know who's going to be talking about this book a little bit more today, or at least in a little bit more detail. But let's get started. This is episode 2 of our book club. And for those of you that are watching the book club, if you want to be a part of it, just shoot us a message. We'd be happy to have you. The more the merrier. We basically are reading a book about once every, let me get back in frame here. How's that, Tyler? Because otherwise I'm going to get a chat from him. We talk about a book about every 3 weeks. Is that right? I don't know, 3 weeks to a month, something like that. And
yeah.
I guess we record when we're ready.
We're agents. We do it on our time.
Exactly. Well, I was trying to stay with the theme, and we do it in a monk-like kind of way.
Okay.
There we go. So, real quick, first question, everybody. Overall thoughts of the book? Yay, nay, just some general thoughts. Amy, I'll start with you.
Big yay. 2 thumbs up
Okay.
from me. I'd never read it before. I've heard him on other podcasts, so I knew a little bit about him and a little bit about the book, but this was my first time reading it. And overall, definitely felt like there were a lot of useful tidbits for life in general. Definitely found ways that that's what this dissertation is all about, applying it to the industry, especially in light of everything that's going on right now. I think some monk-like thinking could do everybody a little good. So I liked it. And I want to get the workbook. There's apparently a workbook that goes along with it. And I would like to get my hands on that.
All right. Michelle, your thoughts?
It was okay. It wasn't the best book I've read. It's not the worst book I read. I got through it. I think it was longer than necessary, but I enjoyed the book. I got a lot out of it. I think it just could have been condensed. Just too many examples. I think it's just not my style of reading, I guess.
Okay. All right. So I thought it was a little wordy. I actually liked the context of the book, but I did think it was a little bit wordy. But at the same time, the whole book of Thinking Like a Monk, I question if we're really thinking like a monk if we weren't present in the book from kind of beginning to end, making it feel like it was a little bit long-winded. But I would also venture to guess that I could probably read Amy's notes and get a very clear, precise, short version of what the book was all about. So, but yeah, overall, a recommendation, but it took me a little bit of an effort to stay with the actual book sometimes, which I think is, one of the messages that was in the book, us trying to be present to whatever it is that we're doing at the moment. So
yeah, sometimes the little gray try this or whatever it was called, the try this sections, sometimes they were a little distracting, or like I just wanted to read and then have that kind of stuff at the end, and that's where I think the workbook would come in handy. And then a lot of it was like meditations or chants, which I just feel like it's kind of weird to read about how to do.
Right.
Yeah, so that part was
kind of weird.
Yeah.
So weird. I agree. So I read it, and then I also had the pleasure of listening to it. So I listened to it with Nestor, and then I read it. So on those parts, to your point, Amy, on those chants, it was nice when you were hearing it, because his Jay's voice is very soothing, and he took you to the calm and to the to the place, and so you were breathing and practicing while you were listening, and that was good.
Yeah.
So that part was great. So I guess if you're going to do it, maybe if you're an audio booker, maybe that's a better option. But I got a lot out of the book. It's definitely brought some things to light.
Okay. Well, so please share. What'd you get out of the book?
What did I get out of the book? Well, I think the main thing that I got out of is we're responsible for ourselves, which we are. And I think I got out of that. You can't expect other people to do things like you do. You have to understand that this is the way you like things, and that everybody's else's place is a gift. It's a gift to you, and you need to look at life as whatever that person is contributing, that's a gift to you. So those are the things that I got more of it. And then also knowing your Varma was important, and I knew when he started talking about it, I knew exactly where I was. And then at the end of the book, they have that quiz. Did you take the quiz, Amy?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm curious as to what yours
I
was.
want to know what
But
yours is too.
okay, I'll tell you. But so that was good, and to know that when you're following that Varma, you are doing your path is the right path, I guess, and you take things better when you're in that space versus when you're not. So those are kind of the things that I kind of took out more than anything. How about you?
Amy?
I mean, I tried to, this morning I sat down because, I like to dog ear the pages or use the sticky notes on the pages. And I was trying to think of it in terms of our industry. And so I started, kind of going through sticky by sticky. And I guess at the end of the book, in regards to how this fits in as me as a real estate agent, I like the whole part where he talks about that the cause of fear is attachment and the cure for fear is detachment. And, you can't go on Instagram or Facebook these days without seeing all the, the fear and the shouting of, what's the changes coming in our industry. And it got me thinking, and I thought, that's like the monkey mind thinking, right? Like the attachment to, but that's how we've always done things, and this is how we've always done things, and what could go wrong, and sort of, the fear and the worrying over what's going to go wrong. And I thought, well, if we're thinking like monks, then how are we supposed to handle this situation? And he gave an example in the book about if your doctor says you're heading towards, I don't remember the example, like if you're heading towards type 2 diabetes because of your diet, then you change your diet. You don't blame the doctor, blame your genes, it's in your control to try to do something about it. And I thought, well, that's kind of the same thing that's going on in our industry right now with the agents. And then my brain took a turn, and I thought, but there's a lot of agents right now that are being quiet about everything that's going on. So like, are those the agents that are thinking like monks about this? And to piggyback off of what Michelle was saying before, I think the agents that are being quiet right now are the agents that are thinking to themselves, well, I've kind of always run my business like a business and been very professional and shown my value. And it doesn't scare me to tell buyers that they have to sign an agreement. It doesn't scare me to tell sellers why they should pay a buyer's compensation. But I think the fear for those agents is they're worried about what everybody else is going to do. Like now I have to worry about the other agent, that the other agent's actually doing the right ethical thing and getting the thing signed and explaining the right things to people. So then at the end I thought, well, then how are we supposed to think like monks about it? Because so much of our business is like, it's not just you, it's you and your buyer or your seller, and then it's the agent on the other side. And it's like, there's so many people involved that, so like Michelle was saying, like we're all responsible for our own behavior, but in our industry, we're so reliant on so many other people to do their thing and to do it the right way. So that's what I left, and I thought, well, now I have a big question. Now I have to ask Nestor and Michelle, what's the monk-like way of handling our industry?
Oh, the monk-like way. Great analysis of the book, actually, from both of you. Where do I start? I guess I looked at it a couple of different ways. I finished the book, and I was taken back a lot of, well, I guess I finished the book and I went back and I started to evaluate life, evaluate business, and evaluate when am I going down that monkey road, and thinking like a monkey and not thinking like a monk. And in doing so, how often I was catching myself of, holy cow, this is happening more often than I actually thought it was happening, and just becoming aware of that. But I think to your point, Amy, I don't know. Personally, from our business perspective and looking at this, I think a lot of people are actually coming from fear, and that's why they're quiet. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to handle this.
Mhm.
And instead of using the word fear, I'll use this word. They are procrastinating. They're procrastinating getting ready for what's about to happen, whether it's developing their skills, learning that conversation. I could probably interview 100 agents right now and say, hey, have you even thought about putting together a buyer's presentation similar to your listing presentation where you've actually got that? And I can tell you right now that the majority of them are going to say no, um, and are not going to be prepared and not be ready for when the industry changes. Will there be people that are going to lie, cheat, and steal and do things wrong or unethically? And are we still going to have to worry about it? Absolutely. And I think that that's going to actually escalate. Um, I think to answer your question with regard to that is we do what we need to do, handle it the best that we can, be prepared to, it's an unfortunate thing, but sometimes we've got to take the reins on both sides of the transaction and take on that responsibility for those that just choose not to. So I think we're going to see more of that.
Yeah.
It's going to be exciting. Um, so hopefully that answered your question.
Uh,
I have something. I have
Yeah,
something
go
to
ahead.
piggyback on that. So you were talking about Nestor, the monkey brain, and people are quiet. And one of my things on the notes here says negative thoughts come from loss of peace. Bad things will happen, right? The loss of love, not being liked. So people in our industry probably have a fear of, well, things are different. And I'm nervous about that. Loss of love, gosh, they're not going to like me because I have to tell them they have to pay me for services, right? So they're nervous about, oh goodness, what am I going to do? And then lots of understanding. They don't want to be disrespected, like somebody else comes into play. So all that. So what he said to reverse it is to take a step back and take the emotion out of everything. Don't
Mhm.
worry about any of those things. You have to distance yourself from the chaos that's happening around you. Let the tornado go around you, but stay focused and in the middle. And then surround yourself with uplifting people, such as what we have right here, people that aren't scared, that are okay to have the conversations, that are going to continue to uplift you up, right? And then manage how long you will allow yourself to be surrounded by that negativity is what he said in the book. So make a decision. If you're in the office and people are talking about, oh goodness, I have to do this and I'm worried or whatever, you have to make that decision on when you're going to break it off. How long you're going to give them to feel what they feel, because he also said that humans um, go around to conformity, right? So they'll change their opinion based on, they'll conform even if you don't want to. You're just going to because someone's saying something and doing something. So if you're constantly in that realm, it's going to just be a mess. So please, people, if you're listening, don't get in there. Stay in the center of the storm. It will
That,
pass, I promise.
it was an interesting example that he gave when he was talking about conformity, the music where he was just making up bands' names. I don't know if you guys remember that.
like did
Yeah,
ever like at Coachella or something about
Yeah.
they're
exactly.
so
Yeah,
hot
he
right
was.
now. I really love their lyrics.
Exactly. And for those of you that are listening, basically what it was he had a group of people, and he proved the point that we will try to conform what Michelle was saying. He made up names of bands and had I think there were some key people in there that were playing along, but the point was is that people he just made up a name. The group didn't exist or the band didn't exist, and people were actually saying how much they liked the band and tried to have a conversation around them just to try to fit in. And that was another big takeaway for me, and kind of what Michelle was talking about of we don't realize the danger we put ourselves in inadvertently or unconsciously by we've all heard it before. We're a product of the five people that we hang around the most, but the book put an interesting spin on it of talking about that we adapt to whatever situation we're in, and if we put ourselves in certain situations over and over and over and over again, we will conform to that and, subconsciously start to bring ourselves to that particular level, both up and or down. So we
Yep.
really have to be careful with that. It's not just the 5 people we're associating with, but more environment, things of that nature, what we're listening to, what we're seeing, everything that has a big role in that over time. And that I started to give that some thought of, what are some of these habits that I have that, can be broken? And going back to our first book, because I took both books and I was like, there's some similarities within both books that merge together. And if you guys don't know what we're talking about, first episode, it was Atomic Habits. Remember the name right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
All
I
right.
was just going to say it kind of went together. It was about the mindset and,
Yes.
the Atomic Habits was how to make those small little shifts. And this was being more self-aware and being self-aware to know that, just be a nice person, right? Do these small things and be a nice person about it. You don't have to be a jerk.
Well, and good point. I will say this and see if you guys both agree. These were great books that complemented each other. If I was saying, read this book and read this book, did you guys like the order? Or if you were to read both books and had to do it over again, would you prefer swapping the orders or the Atomic Habits first and then this one?
Maybe this one, and then if there was anything you would want to implement, then Atomic Habits kind of shows you the way to implement and make the changes. But
I completely agree with that, but there was so much complementary going on between the two that I would highly recommend them almost as a duet.
yeah,
Might say
Yeah.
there.
I will say that ever since I finished reading, now I say to Adam all the time, good thing, bad thing, who knows? Do you remember that story in, in the book about, what was it? I just remember he has the horse and the horse runs away and the brother says, oh, you must be so upset the horse ran away. And he says, good thing, bad thing, who knows? And then the horse comes back with a mare and, oh, now you're so lucky. Good thing, bad thing, who knows? Then the son gets on the mare and falls off and breaks his leg. Oh, that's terrible. Good thing, bad thing, who knows? Then they come to draft for the army. The kid has a broken leg. So good thing, bad thing, who knows? So I find that I started saying it kind of joking around, but it actually does in the moment when something happens, instead of immediately labeling it as good or bad, just, and kind of bringing it back to before. With the same thing applies with what's going on in the industry right now too. Good thing, bad thing, who knows? We have to wait and see, but we can just be prepared for it. That's the thing.
And a lot of assumptions. There's a lot of assumptions going out there, which I think the book highlighted a lot, that we tend to just assume that. Kind of piggybacking on what you're saying, the good thing, bad thing, who knows, that we just make that assumption that this is what this actually does. And, instead of waiting until figuring it out and acting appropriately once we have a better understanding of it.
Right.
So this goes to the 3 seasons, or the 3 types, the seasons, the reason, and the lifelong. So when you're looking at relationship, let's throw that in to this, because the conversation I thought was pretty interesting, because he threw in trust, he threw in relationships, and how we treat things. Well, we're a service-based industry, so we need to start considering how we're dealing with the other humans that we deal with every day, right? And how trustworthy are we of them, and how are we showing up for them as practitioners, right? So I like that there were 4 types of trust: the competence, the care, the character, and the consistency. So who are you in all these, scenarios? And then also the types of people. So you have to think about, in a relationship, in real estate, you're with someone either for a long, intense period of time, when you're looking at a customer, or sometimes it's a really short period of time. But in that short period of time, you could be the reason for them doing something, and you're there, or it could end up it being a lifelong friendship, with a customer, because you've spent so much time condensed with them with so much emotion, right? Or it could just be, hey, it's a transaction and they don't, it's just a season, they like you, never hear from them again. So it's, it was kind of interesting to break those things down, and who you are, and and what your role is for each person that you're interacting.
Nice. Amy, what are you taking out of the book that you want to apply?
I'm taking out of the book, well, like I already said, the good thing, bad thing, who knows. I find myself saying that that's just, part of my day now.
Nice.
Because I have a tendency, I can be very anxious, and I could like look around the room right now and tell you 17 things that could go wrong, or like, I'd make a good insurance underwriter probably, but it's easy for my mind to kind of spiral. So the what was it? Stop, swap, and what was the third one? Spot, stop, and swap. Spot when I find myself starting to think that a catastrophe is in the making. Stop that negative thinking, and then swap it out for thinking that is more productive. Or the other alternative I think he gave was to, twist it and start thinking of positive things. So I've definitely been trying to do that. The Dharma, after taking the Dharma test, thinking about, what is it? Fulfilling your Dharma, I think is the phrase that he used. So more ways that I can do that, more ways to be more service minded and to give more. So there was definitely a lot in the book, but the spot, stop, and swap, I think, is something that will be very useful for me if I remember to do it in all the situations.
Now, a follow-up question to that, the giving more, because you and Adam are very generous, as you guys do a lot with animals and things of that nature. So when you're saying giving more, I'm curious, how did that conversation go in your mind? Because I guess when I'm an outsider looking in, I'm like, you guys do a lot already.
There's always more to do, though, more to give, more,
True.
more to help. I know this year we decided that with every closing, we would donate an extra 50 pounds of pet food. But I was even thinking, I don't know, what more that we could, physically do at the Humane Society. We just kind of like drop off the food every month, but it would be nice to physically be there more and do more there. And then within the real estate community too, because I've always had these, I miss teaching in a way. And I've always said that I don't really know that sales is my thing, but I'm definitely, teaching is my thing. And my Dharma, or was it the Dharma or the Varna? I feel terrible that I'm confusing the two phrases now, but it's to be a guide. So I'm thinking, how can I, do that more in the industry? Because I like the industry, and there's things I like about the industry. It's just that there's things that and when you read about the Dharma, and he says, like, you can feel when you're doing something and it doesn't sit well with you. And I was like, oh my God, it's like, that's me. Like, I'm sure everybody feels that way. Like, yes, I feel that's me. That's how I feel. So kind of thinking of, how I can give back in the industries, because there are things that I love and would love to teach and share. So.
Well, that's part of what we're doing, hopefully, with the book club.
Yes.
So.
What about you two? I want to know what you are getting out and implementing, and I also want to know what your Dharma is.
I don't know what my Dharma is. Michelle probably knows what my Dharma is. I didn't take the test. So.
Oh, we'll do it tonight.
Yeah.
No problem. I'll do it for you tonight. 20 questions.
Okay.
I have a guess.
What is your guess?
I think you would be a leader.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I agree, Amy.
All
I'm a
right.
maker and a guide.
A maker.
There was one question that I couldn't make a decision on because I was both. And I'm like, I got to put 1 and 1 on this one, 1 and 1. And I did. And so it said maker and guide. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. Because I feel Nestor is the leader and I'm his maker. I'm the one that's.
Ah.
All right. I like it.
So yeah. How about you, Nestor? What'd you get out of the book? What are you going to
My
That was your
biggest thing
question.
was create more simplicity within life. I kept going back to his talk about who are the two people he was talking about. I can't even remember their names now. Bill Gates, and I forgot who the other one. And he was talking about their dress. When you were looking at both of them, there wasn't a Gucci item or anything
Warren
inside.
Buffett, I think it was.
That's who it was.
Like,
Yeah.
I forget how much money there is between the two of them, and there wasn't like a status symbol anywhere on them. Yep.
Exactly. And a lot of it came back to me of how much thought, not just how much thought, but how much energy we put into things that really don't matter. And if we eliminate that, we can actually take that energy and put it in some place that's more useful. That was probably my biggest takeaway from the book of, you know, lack of a better word, how do I stop wasting so much time on things that are unnecessary, so we can do more of what we want to do and be in that right place more often. Did that answer?
There's no wrong answer.
Yes.
Okay.
It's just an answer.
Okay.
What did you think of at the end of the book when he starts talking about like meditating on death and thinking about death and your deathbed and all that kind of, I mean, is that something that you think about most people try to avoid ever thinking about that stuff, but I try to live like very consciously aware of the fact that this is like a finite time that we have here. I don't let myself think about it too much because of, like I said before, I could spiral down and then, oh my God, we're all going to die. But, I feel like you have to kind of, have that in the back of your head sometime. Like you don't have all the time in the world to make everything happen. So,
Michelle, your thoughts?
My thoughts is, it's funny that you say that. That's like my last note right there. My last note. And then what I wrote in there is transactions for real estate, to start to think about those things as meditation and clarity. But what do I think? I think it's important. I agree. My biggest takeaway on the book, honestly, was how to be more grateful and how to look at things and people with more gratitude and a softer heart, instead of just saying that person's driving me crazy, and to really take a step back and say, why are they driving me crazy, right? And get a little bit more clarity as to that's them and I'm responsible for me. Goes back to what I said in the beginning, right? I can only control myself. So that meditation, I think, was really good. And I agree, we don't ever have tomorrow. So you need to be the best person you are today and in this moment. And that's all you can do. You really can't do much more than that, and just be the best version possible. So what that translates to is how much time, energy, and effort you want to give to the people that are surrounding you. And I feel that what we do as an industry is extremely important, and people are trusting you with so much. And you need to be so appreciative that they're opening up and sharing their lives with you for this finite period of time. It's honestly an honor. It really is an honor. And so that's why I was thinking, transitional or transactionally. But just as you said, Nestor, there's a lot of clutter, and we need to declutter so that we can make space for all those wonderful things to be able to give to other people, and then also enjoy ourselves.
Nice. Did anybody try meditating?
Yes.
yes.
How'd it go? Okay.
Did you?
Sure. I did. I got a pretty busy mind.
Then you're doing it right.
Well, I enjoyed the part of the book where he was talking about, that this is a skill that needs to be developed over and over time, and that we need to make more of an effort and do more. And if we put a small effort into it, we should understand and have our expectations should be the same as well. But I could not figure out, or I didn't realize how much noise is actually going on to try to sit there and create a quiet mind and not give thought to move on to the next thing. It was like milliseconds.
I was going to say, was it torture for you?
It wasn't torture, but I felt like, okay, starting over. Okay, start over. Okay, start over. Okay, start over. And I didn't feel like I was making progression, but, Anyway, your experience? I'll start with you, Amy. Your experience?
I like to do a lot of guided meditations. So There's this one on YouTube, and she has a British accent, and I just love listening to her when she talks to you about closing your eyes and breathing it, and I just love listening to her. So at first I'll always think like, this is so relaxing. And then, then your mind starts going. But I feel like it's weird in that at times when I'm feeling kind of more anxious or stressed or there's something going on up there, seems to be the time that meditation is more useful to me. And then when I'm kind of in a good place is when I find it actually more distracting, and I do get annoyed with it and frustrated with it, and then I want to stop doing it. But then I feel like when you stop doing it, that's kind of when your mind can go to those anxious places. So it's just kind of like, it really does have to be a habit and something that you do, all the time. And I guess, like they say in the book, the whole point is to notice those thoughts, notice they're there, what are they, and then kind of just let them go. And that can be the hard part sometimes, depending on what the thoughts are. It's easy to stick with them and run off with them, but
Nice.
but I don't know that I've ever really just done the whole like just sit in silence type of meditation. So what about you, Michelle?
I tried it several times. Didn't go well. Michelle?
It's a good question. So do I meditate? I don't know if I would call it meditate. I'm quiet a lot. So my environment is always quiet. I rarely have a lot of noise going on around me. So I guess for me, there's that is a type of meditation, I guess, is because it is quiet. So I try to just do one thing at a time. But I do get distracted a lot. And so I try to stick to what needs to get done. But I guess I pray a lot. So prayer, I would say, is my meditation. So when I get frustrated or upset, I start to pray, and that calms me. So I don't know. But no, I've never done a guided meditation except for when we were listening to Jay in this book. And, we're listening to the audio when he started to breathe, and I started to breathe and close my eyes and concentrate and, tried to do all the things and trying to be calm. And so I attempted. That's as good as I can get.
Okay.
I think you
So-
have. Oh, sorry. I
Okay.
think, Michelle, I think you have a very Zen-like quality about you. Like, you have a peacefulness about you. So I feel like, I don't know. I feel like you kind of already. You seem like you have a monk mind already. You have a very calming, peaceful presence.
Well, I don't know. Ask my husband.
There are moments. So I'll ask this question as a follow-up question. After reading the book, do you classify yourself as a multitasker or not a multitasker? That was a for me, that was a big part of the book when he was talking about that too often that we multitask and don't stay in the moment.
I am not a multitasker. I don't think that I
Okay.
necessarily stay in the moment. When I'm working, I guess I'm in the moment, especially if it's something that interests me or that I enjoy doing. But I'm not a good multitasker. But my brain is always going. I do have to say that. That's what I mean when I say, like, I don't know that I'm always in the moment, but I'm not one to be doing multiple things at once.
Gotcha.
I
Michelle?
definitely can't do more than one thing at a time. You already know that. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, no. It's a one thing, move on. Because anytime I start something and then start something else and start something else, and I feel like all those plates are on going over my head, and I don't like it. Nestor, I can answer for you. You're definitely a multitasker. You can't sit and do one thing.
I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say yes and no. I'm a multitasker because just my role, I have to take on a lot of different tasks, and it's
That's
honestly
fair.
it's forced upon me a lot of the times, and forced upon me with interruptions and things of that nature, where somebody will say, I I always love this when they start the question with "Are you busy?" and I'll always answer yes, I am, and then they'll say, "Well, I've got a question." And then they'll just get right into the question. And I'm all like, why'd you even bother to ask if you were busy? Just ask the question. and and people don't realize one of the where it shows up the most for me is if I'm in the middle of formulating a thought with regard to an email response or something like that. There's nothing that will take me out of my mojo faster than interruptions there, because when I'm interrupted and I'm in the middle of that thought, it's not. I don't know if I don't have the ability, and I don't know if anybody has the ability to just pick up where you left off. You really have to go back. For me, a typical thing is go back, reread what I've written, start my thought process over again, and then start it again, and then the next interruption comes, and it's not even go back to where I left off from the last time. It's go all the way back to the beginning, and something that should take 10 minutes if stayed on task ends up taking 45 minutes to an hour, and then it just becomes frustrating for me. Then I close the door, but try to get it done. So I am a multitasker, but a lot of that is forced upon me. That is not where I function at my best. That not even close. So
I think this was, good. I'm glad to hear everybody got something a little bit different.
yeah,
And I love that we talked about how we can bring it about to our industry and, anyone in sales actually um, has the same obstacles, and how by reading this book, you'll get a better understanding of how to be a better human, right?
Mhm.
that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else in closing that we want to talk about? Anything else we want to share about the book? Share any thoughts, any ideas? I mean, you made a lot of notes, Amy, so I don't want to.
I didn't know I have two things that I starred in the book, and I just wanted to look. Oh,
Okay.
don't judge the moment. As soon as you label something as bad, your mind starts to believe it. Instead, be grateful for setbacks and allow the journey of life to progress at its own pace and in its own roundabout way. And I like how he said that when things don't go your way, doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. You just say to yourself, "There's something more for me out there." And that was a nice,
Exactly.
positive spin on things that I liked. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love
there's
it.
more for me out there.
I love that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. That's true. That's true. I like that. Hey, one of the other quotes in there was, "Life isn't a computer program; it's a dance."
Mm.
And I like that because a lot of times we get so focused on everything, and it's really very fluid. Just as you were saying, it's a life is so fluid. You don't know what's going to happen. You can have all good intentions are paved with gold, right? And
Mhm.
it's just a matter of what happens when you walk in the door and that phone call you pick up, and then your day is moved sideways. That's the dance. So are you breakdancing that day? Are you doing a waltz? What are you doing?
Like it. I'll finish with don't be so judgmental of ourselves. That was a big takeaway for me. How often, where he gave the example in the book when he was talking about it, if we have a room full of people, we won't go to the place where we'll say all these bad things about them. Yet in a millisecond, we have no problems beating ourselves up and saying bad things about ourselves, and that we really need to break that habit for ourselves, and making sure that we're saying those same things, treating ourselves the way that we would be treating other people, and just being respectful to ourselves. So, next book, Michelle.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing, right?
It's a beautiful thing. Okay, so you want Arshay's book next?
Yeah, we're going
Arshay
Arshay's
Cooper?
book's next. Yes, Arshay's Cooper's next book. Yes.
Okay, we'll do that. Amy, do you have that book?
I do not, but I will get
Okay.
my hands on it ASAP.
Perfect. All right. A beautiful thing, Arshay Cooper. So I'm looking forward to that one. And we'll touch base when we're ready to have that conversation. But I wanted to say thank you to everybody. And again, if there's, please let me know. If you guys want to join the book club, now's a great time. Arshay Cooper will dive it. Well, actually, we're not going to post this right away. So ixnay what I just said. If you want to start on the book after this one, let me know. Or if you have, hopefully I said this after the first episode as well, and you reach out to us, then we can get you caught up and up to speed. But anyway, looking forward to it. Did everybody have, Amy, did you have a fabulous 4th? You and Adam?
Yeah, yep. We had a
Good.
good time. You guys, did you ran a
Yes.
5K?
Ran a 5K, did a little bit of work, kept the flags up in the community, and did some things, and then tried to keep Monty happy during the
Firework.
fireworks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he that poor boy burned so many calories. It's not even funny because he was just pacing back and forth in the house.
Oh,
Yeah, he couldn't stop moving. But this morning he was fine. He was happy this morning, so
good.
it's passed. Well, anyway, thank you guys, everybody. I appreciate it, and until next time.
All right.